You think I don't know who you people are? Of course I do. You're Residents of Evil. I'm Gage Maverik, the voice of Joe Baker, and you're listening to the Residents of Evil podcast. Now sit down, shut up, and listen. I'm Joe Baker. Now let's talk.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Residents of Evil podcast. Today we are joined by Gage Maverik. Gage was the voice and performance capture for Joe Baker in the Resident Evil 7 DLC and as Zoe. Before we begin, I just want to let you guys know the Residents of Evil podcast is available on iTunes, so if you would like, you can check it out there, and if you enjoyed it, please leave us a review. Alright, with that being said, let's start the show.
You see that girl back there? Look! That there my brother's little girl. My niece, you understand? And around here, family is a righteous cause. And you ain't gonna kill my family. Now see, that ain't something I can abide.
I guess the first thing would just be kind of give some history and background on yourself. Let the fans know a little bit about you.
All right, Gage Maverik. I'm from Houston, Texas. I moved out to Los Angeles, California in 2011 to further my acting, voice, singing, spokesman career, pretty much all entertainment aspects. I also write, produce, and direct. Done some feature film work, TV, a lot of TV work, a lot of. I played everything from serial killers to detectives and a lot in between there. So. There's a bit of a gamut there. I guess, a lot of TV work, a lot of voice work. And I'm really excited about what this looks like and the gravity of playing a character like this in the gaming world. I'm really excited to kind of see how everything unfolds.
Yeah, definitely. Man of many hats and many characters, it sounds like. Yeah,
my entertainment spectrum ranges from commercial work, spokesman, hosting, MC, to writing, producing, directing. And I, of course, I've actually written a feature film that I'm working on developing, a sitcom I'm working on developing, and even just in those two, the film is like sick and demented and twisted, and the sitcom is obviously hilariously funny. So there's a lot of range here, and this brain has a lot of weirdness going on. So this is not a place you want to hang out in this brain in here.
But it produces some good content.
Yeah, definitely.
It does make sense. Yeah, and I'm a content creator as a YouTuber, so there's lots of content going up on a regular basis. Just upload a video. After our podcast, after our live playthrough the other night. So just always adding stuff, always adding. My brain is always on.
So, Moser asked this question here. They want to know, how did you get the gig for Resident Evil 7?
All right. So I actually received a word-of-mouth audition to play this character, and I didn't really know what the audition was for. A friend of mine had heard me do dialects and heard my voice reel and heard me do this. So they said, "Oh, you would be very good for this. Why don't you go out for this?" And they hooked me up with the production team, and they invited me out for an audition. And the audition was very, very vague. They literally gave me like 2 sentences, and among it was crocodile hunter in Louisiana. And I was like, okay, or gator hunter in Louisiana. Sorry. And I was like, all right. That sounds great. And I had done something previous to this that was similar to that character. So they didn't know it, but I was already prepared from something that I had done about 6 to 8 months ago for a pilot for A&E.
Oh, so you're already in that mindset, ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, I had to revisit the mindset, but since I'd already done it, I had the experience to go there and to kind of revisit that character and revisit that dialect and revisit that action. I'd love to tell you guys about it. I had so much fun in that particular audition.
Oh, go for it. What was that like?
Definitely.
What was that like?
Yeah, so it came out. Yeah, I'm stepping back to the A&E pilot audition. What they were looking for is real live people that live in the swamps of Louisiana that hunt gators. Real live people that do this. Okay.
Okay.
Now, just a little preamble to the story. I myself, Gage Maverik, I'm actually really terrified of everything that goes on in swamps. Everything. From spiders to bugs to even the little mossy stuff that kind of hangs from the trees and such. That's just scary looking. Little green stuff that like sits on the top of the water. That's scary looking. And of course, all the snakes. I'm terrified of all of that. I'm a water person, but I'm good with beach, lakes, and stuff. But if there's like murky things like swimming underneath there, I'm terrified of that. Now, I had to create a character that, of course, lives in that environment and that is not terrified of it, that actually welcomes it and accepts it and all that. So I created a character that was a gator hunter in Louisiana, and I did the audition for A&E, and it was an improvisational audition. So basically, I had to be overly prepared for that role so that because they were going to have us come in, we would do an actor slate, and then in the room, it would just be us, a camera, and then the auditioner, the casting professional, and they would literally ask us questions as a character. So as soon as we did a slate, after that, we were no longer ourselves. We were now this character. And so we had to be so overly prepared, so no matter what question they were going to ask us, we should have the answer on the spot, not have to think about it. Why? Because we are that particular person.
Right.
And right. I probably went on for 6 to 8 minutes, maybe more, in that room. And it was so much fun because, like, at one point, like, I put the guy that was shooting the video for the audition in the space. I was like, oh, now look over there. Now, you see that big tackle shop right back over there over your shoulder? Now look out. Now you got a big old fly right there on your shoulder. Don't think you're like 10 actors now. Be sure to wipe them off. Look at that. It's on your shoulder there. And like the casting guy was like laughing his ass off because like I like put him in the scene, right? And I like telling him, look out, there's a big bug flying around. And there's that kind of thing. And
right.
That's how in the moment I was. And then there was another point in it that was pretty hilarious. I wish I had the prop with me now. I don't. You guys can imagine it. I had a little can of Altoids in a little tin, they come in a little tin container. And I pulled it out of my pocket. And I don't normally carry Altoids with me. So this is like one of these moments, like it was so serendipitous. At one point, I actually pulled the Altoids out and I started to shake them. And I used it as a character. I go, you see this right here? This here my first gator kill teeth. I carry these teeth around with me everywhere I go. I kill them right there. This is my gator. These are my gator teeth right here. I carry them with me to remind me. My first gator kill. And I shook it up and you could hear it sounds like it might be teeth a little thin. That was totally like not even planned. I just took them out. I was like, oh yeah. And like in the moment, like I just started doing all these things started coming to me. And I did not book that role, even though I had so much fun with it. I mean, in that situation, probably they were looking for maybe a different look that wasn't myself, or maybe a guy that was really literally like from Louisiana that lived in the swamps or what have you. But because of my preparation for that, flashing forward to this audition for this character, Joe, I think it really gave me a leg up because I was overly prepared for this. And I even told the casting director at this one, same thing. I said, if you want to see something, throw it at me and let's play with it. And we did in the audition. We did we had a 1-page script that was mostly action. And if you've ever looked at scripts, there's a lot of action descriptions on the page. Yeah. And there was only like basically utterances and little words here and there. And there was one point where, and this is why I wanted to do this on video, but like they had me like mimic a gun, like a harpoon type gun. And I was staring right down the barrel of the gun, and and I was staring into the gator's mouth, and that was the camera. And so I had to look like this deranged gator hunter. Like, come on now, bring it to Papa.
That's badass.
Yeah.
And that was what the audition was, and it was literally just myself on an X and about 25 to 30 feet away from the casting director with a camera, and there was nothing else there. And I had to create, all the action and all the mimicry and everything character driven. I had to create that.
Yeah. I mean, sounds like you knocked it out of the park. And it's not everybody can do that sort of where you have to imagine that you're there. It's not for everybody. So when they see somebody who comes in with, seems like very positive, upbeat personality like yourself, you're already prepared for this and you have no problem with just imagining you're, in front of this gator. That all kind of worked out then, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's one of those deals where, and other actors you've interviewed before will probably tell you the same thing, is we just kind of go in, we do our part, hope that we get it, and then just kind of hope for the best. And I had kind of moved on with like 10 or 12 other things, and I auditioned for this way back in like late January, early February, I want to say, and I didn't get the call until end of March, maybe early April. At the earliest, I think. I mean, several months had gone by. So you just think if you just don't hear from them, you didn't book it, and you just move on. And,
right, you just go about your business.
I received a phone call. I remember the day. I was actually in Pasadena getting off the train, and I was meeting up with someone there to go to this music festival or have drinks, something like that. I can't remember the event, but I remember getting off the train, and I was about to walk in. My person I was meeting was late, and I received a call and it said, "Hey, this is such and such, and we loved your performance as Joe. We want to book you for this." And I go, "Let me think about it." Yes. And it was kind of a wonderful beginning to a cool evening. And, the rest is kind of history, as they say.
Right. It's a good thing to get that call before the festival and set the day off right.
Yes.
So you didn't
That's
know
good
what
news.
you didn't know what you were auditioning for. You knew what the idea of the part was, but did you know it was a horror game, just in game in general, or anything like that?
No. I knew that it was. I knew that it was some big production because the space that I auditioned in was just this giant. It looked like a big giant warehouse with cameras everywhere and all kinds of technology that I had never seen before because I've never actually done anything in the gaming world. But I knew it was for something really, really big. But they're very, very secretive about this stuff, and quite frankly. The character description, again, was just a couple of sentences with no backstory. So I had to create all that backstory. There was no family attachments. Like, they didn't say, "Oh, you're a member of a family," that they didn't know that you existed. Like, all the stuff that you see now that's come out and that I've learned since, I had none of that knowledge. Zero. I mean, I literally had 2 sentences about the character. His name is Joe. You're a gator hunter. And go. And we audition for so many crazy things out here. I've done stuff that would be like I did this one thing here in Los Angeles, and it was for an intro video for some European, somewhere, some small European country intro video for some bizarre technology thing, and they shot that here in Los Angeles. And so you don't even think about what these things could be. So you try to imagine, and usually you're wrong with whatever you come up with.
Right.
Yeah.
So how far into the actual production did you find out what it was?
Oh, man. After booking the role, and they sent me some of the scripts, not all of it. Again, their whole mantra is secretive. The whole thing is they don't want anyone to know anything because they don't want an amateur actor who books something to go blab about what they're doing and kind of ruin the mystique. And that's happened before, so I could totally understand where they come from with this regard. But I only got portions of the script. It didn't say what it was for. It had one name on it, and the name was Joe. That was it. And I'm just reading it. So, and at the same time, gang, I thought that I just had a day player role on this. I thought that I just was coming in. I was going to be doing some lines, and that was going to be the end of it. I did not know at first glance, and even first day, that I was the main guy in this, or a main person. I don't want to make it about me. It's not. I didn't know that I had such a significant role. Let me say it that way. I was not aware, but I did learn that was Resident Evil moment number 1 when I walked through the doors after filling out my final paperwork, which included non-disclosures and all the legal and the contractual stuff, which I had to fill out, the final portions there because they hold everything until the last minute, quite literally. And I had to fill out last minute stuff before I even walked through the room. Hey, you're about to see some stuff that you can't talk about, type of thing. And once I walked through that room, I saw a guy pull out a T-shirt, and on it said Resident Evil, whatever. And I went,
"That's cool."
I go, this is, and they didn't even officially really tell me, but I go, "This is Resident Evil." They're like, "Yep." And to them, it's no big deal, but to someone like myself, it's coming from the outside in. Yeah. I was like, "Wow, that's pretty cool." And I still didn't know the depth of my character or the significance of my character still at this moment. I just knew I was doing something for Resident Evil. That was it.
That's a big surprise, an awesome surprise, actually, to find out. And you said earlier that this was all new to you. You haven't done any video games before, and this whole mocap experience is sort of new to a lot of people. What was your sort of experience with recording in mocap? Did you find it easy, challenging, uncomfortable, and just trying to act and play the performance while dressed up in suits that have all these white balls and everything?
Right.
It's
white ball.
It's a crazy experience.
The headpiece with the camera, all that good stuff.
Yeah. That's a wonderful question. I will say to this, I had a very slight entree into mocap before doing mocap. And what I mean by that is I'd actually done the head scan before.
Oh, right.
Before doing Joe Baker, my face is somewhere on the internet in some game because they paid me a significant amount of money to go into Hollywood and it's strange, these location studios. It was around this back alleyway through a door, hush hush, and they brought me in there and I had to be clean shaven. And they basically took 360 head scans of and I had to sit there, and they actually came up with a big mold for my head made out of plaster of Paris. So I had seen a partial glimpse into it. So it wasn't completely blind, but I'm also a big sports guy and I watch ESPN. So I've seen them do like, Madden-esque type segments where they'll show an athlete where they'll say, okay, today we're going to be doing a big thing on, Derrick Rose, and Derrick Rose is going to be good, going through the pylons with this. And we put Derrick Rose in a motion capture suit, and I saw what it looked like. So I had seen it. I had just never done it. So to further answer your question, it's a definite different animal acting in mocap in the sense that it is to a pretty much 90% degree of you're still ad-libbing and you're still mimicking and you're still, because they don't create sets for you. Like you don't, like if I were to do a television sitcom or a series or a movie, I'll go to the location and there'll be a house and there'll be a couch and there'll be a dinner table. And they'll have all that. There is none of that. It's all, you're still having to mimic and you're still having to pantomime and not ad-lib, but mimic and pantomime, mime the actions. And you are given limited props even in your prop scenes. So like in that scene at the very beginning, when you see me with the sword and I pull the knife, not the sword, but the knife, and I pull it out and I put the guy's thing. He's not in any of that suit of armor. He's just wearing he doesn't have that helmet. So when I'm smacking him on the head, we have to fake that where I'm actually coming really close to his head.
Actually hit him in the head. Got to make this look real.
And Zoe's not at all lying on any sort of bed back there. She's just lying on just big piece of cardboard and like this thing that they erected for her. And we're all in these bulbs. The other thing that made it really awkward is they've got this camera and it's coming out as about 8 to 12 inches away from our face, and it's a little arm that comes out, and that camera faces right back at our face so they can capture our facial expression. So that made it really bizarre because I'm not used to having stuff on my face when I'm acting or emoting and doing a certain scene. Not only that, but in the very intense scenes when you see us getting really close to each other, like the fight scenes and the confrontation scenes and even the endearing scenes towards the end when you maybe I should hold on towards the end when you see a really nice scene. When you see stuff like that, it's difficult for us to get close to each other because if we were to turn our heads, suddenly we're interlocking and it screws up the scene. We can't, and it knocks off our apparatus. And if that changes even in the slightest, it messes up the balance of the what's it called? Not the configuration.
The calibration.
Calibration, yes. It affects that calibration. And
challenging.
It is very challenging. And then having all the light bulbs all over you is really weird. I feel like a big Christmas tree.
Yeah, exactly.
So what was the voice acting like?
The voice acting, we actually did both. We in the moment when we were shooting a lot of those scenes, like the first scene and the later scenes, and even like some of the fight scenes, we actually recorded voice at the same time. But because a lot of them were very, very intense, they had us come back later and do the voice scenes in a voice booth, which was really awesome to do that because that gave us a second chance. If our read wasn't what we wanted it to be the first time, we had a second chance to do it. And then a lot of times in a feature or a TV show, if you've left that day, you don't get that second chance. And that gave us a second chance to record that in a different way and have multiple takes on the day, shooting it in a different way, giving a different inflection or giving a different meaning or giving it a different tone, different pitch.
That's nice. So I guess on to recording in the sound booth. That must have been because it's still very challenging, and it's nice that you get to take double takes and everything. But that must have been a little relaxing compared to all the movements you had to do in those, from what we hear, very uncomfortable suits.
And they really are. But the assumption that it's much more relaxing in the sound booth, I think, is an incorrect one. And the reason I say that is because people sort of downplay voice acting in the fact that it's not the same in intensity. Right. And they couldn't be more wrong about that.
I agree.
Yeah,
I came off wrong
in your
when I
voice
said
booth.
That,
you're in the voice booth and in the sound booth in the sound voice recording sessions. It can get way more, and the reason I say that is because you're only using your voice with your body. You're not doing both. That means you don't have the balance. You're using strictly your voice, mostly your throat and diaphragm. But it's causing you to actually use more focus for that, and it can actually wear you down more, especially in there because, and because they're in the sound booth and when they're recording it, they're getting a chance to have, let's say, one line delivered 10 different ways, 20 different ways. And it was interesting because I actually lost my voice multiple times during the voice recording sessions. And Jen from the production company that was working with us was just such a godsend. She was so wonderful of going through and making sure that I had enough stuff for my voice. Like I had everything from throat coat to honey and lemon and citrus drinks and like all day she was refilling it, and like she was literally just such an angel. I want to thank Jen. I hope that she listens to this and you keep this in because, and you know who you are, Jen. You did a great job of keeping me liquidated and keeping me hydrated. Everything from hot tea with citrus and honey and lemon to throat coat to there were actually throat lozenges in the booth that I would actually be able to utilize, and I would actually triple and quadruple them up. So in a big giant canister, I would have like a citrus drink, hot tea with the throat lozenges, with the honey and the throat coat, all in the same drink.
Nice.
Now this doesn't taste very good, but it allows me to sustain and do things longer. And a lot of times with Naveed, our director, who did a fantastic job, he deserves a lot of credit here for this. Naveed did a fantastic job. So Naveed, if you're listening, many, many props to you and mad props. You did a fantastic job. But Naveed was instrumental in also kind of gauging, okay, we're going to be doing the softer stuff now, the heavier stuff a little bit later, but we're going to mix in some yelly, some growly, some guttural, because he knows what it takes that the voice actor is experiencing to be able to preserve your voice for the things that you're going to need later in the day. So if you do it all the growl, like I wanted to come in and do like the heavier stuff at the beginning so I could just make sure I had the strength. And they're like, no, you need to do it later because we'll have some clean stuff we have to do. And if you get, if your voice is too rough for the clean stuff later, that won't work.
Yeah.
So, there's a management that has to be done on behalf of the talent during the process to make sure we don't get in our own way.
I remember during the live stream, you said you had a moment where you pretty much passed out from doing all the effort type stuff, the fighting noises and grunting and all that.
Yes. There was a moment I haven't seen the entire game played through 100% each time yet because I know that there are different challenge levels and there's different courses one can take while playing the game. So there's a scene that I remember shooting. I don't know if it ended up in the final piece or not, but while I was doing the voice recording for it, it got so intense that I literally passed out during it, and I kind of fell up against the backboard. These booths are huge sound booths that give me, they're probably a good, some of them are 250 square feet, maybe bigger, 500 square feet.
Oh, wow.
And I was in one of those, but because they gave me free reins, and like the microphone, of course, was here, but I could directly move the microphone around. As the actor, it helps us to actually do a lot of the actions with it, because if you're just sitting there hoping you can do it with your voice, you're not going to give it the right intonation, and you're not going to give it the right feel. So at that point in this one, and I don't want to say what it is because I don't know if it's in the game or not, but it was a very, very intense scene, and I literally passed out because I kept doing it so many times. I thought I could handle it, but I didn't. I actually passed out. They had to kind of come and grab me and say, "Hey, let's take a break." And some of these sessions are 6 and 8 hours long each.
Yeah, it's a lot of strain on your voice, like your diaphragm, your body, because you're standing there moving around. It's not the same as if you were acting where you're constantly moving and doing things. This is where you're standing in a room in front of a microphone. You can't move, but it's got to be very stressful and just hard on the body, especially the throat and the diaphragm.
It really is, and as a former singer, I have to be able to do a nice job of managing that as well, so that when I get in there, I'm not crapping out too early, or I'm not fading out too early, and the voice, you gotta, and that's why I was like kind of petitioning them sometimes, like, well, let's do some of this now, and they're like, well, we'll do some now, and then some later. Yeah. Again, they have to kind of manage it because they know what's coming, in the room. And that's where a lot of the imagination is, because they do give you some screens that you can look at, and I guess we'll talk about that as the interview unfolds in that process. But there's a lot that goes on in that sound booth for sure.
Well, let's get into that. When you're in the sound booth, you've got your microphone that's hanging off the movable arm, and you get a little bit of action range in there. But what is on those screens? What are you seeing at this point? Because you've already done the mocap. Is it fully animated? Is it still kind of what are you looking at there?
All right, so that's very, very interesting, and this is something that was also new to me in this world. What's cool is I'm actually doing ADR work, which is, audio digital recording, audio to my own action. So they put in the action that I had already done from the motion capture in the suit still. So no, it's not animated yet.
Oh, okay.
It's just, and I'm seeing myself do the action, and I'm going to get a chance to voice over my own action that I'm doing in front of me on the screen. And I got to do that probably about 25% of the time. And the other 75%, I would say, is just wild lines. And I don't see anything on a screen. And if you're in the film industry, you know what wild lines is. They just basically take a boom mic over you and your lav mic, and if a line was screwed up or someone stepped over your line or someone, or a plane flew over or like the car alarm, if something like that happens, you have to do what's called wild lines. And they take your lines. This is just regular feature film sound stuff. And they take your lines and you go to the side where it's really quiet and you record those lines independently with the sound engineer.
Okay? Oh, okay, cool.
So in the sound booth, 75% of it, at least for me, now other actors may tell you differently that worked on this, but at least for me, was 75% of it was just lines in an Excel spreadsheet, nothing on the screen, and I had to make up what I was seeing just from delivering those lines. And It's interesting because I'm seeing some of it now, and between you and me and everybody else listening on YouTube or iTunes, sometimes the delivery isn't what I would have wanted it to be now, seeing it in the moment.
Right, seeing the actual context of what the moment was.
Yeah, and I didn't have that advantage at the time. So a learning opportunity for me would be, and if I get to work with these guys again or in the future, I would ask them if they could just give me more on screen. I can give you more recording lines, because some of it's kind of, and they would tell me, they would just give me the mood. They would say, okay, say this line as if you're kind of saying it to yourself, but not really to yourself. You're kind of thinking out loud. You're gonna, and then now this one, say it like really loud, like you're yelling at the guy across the street, or down the block or whatever. And sometimes the choices that were made don't match what I was wanting to deliver, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes sense. Yeah, definitely.
And if I had more context and more video on the screen, I would be able to do that. And a lot of times they also put on the screen other people that acted the scene out, like in Japan, and they would have the other guys act it out, and I would get to ADR those moments, which is awesome. So I get to see other guys do it. It's a scene that I maybe didn't shoot, but they wanted to use the voice for it.
Okay.
So I would see them portray the scene, like, for example, so I would see two guys coming together, and they would show me the action first, and then just let me, like, how would that sound if it was me either getting my ass kicked or kicking the guy's ass in that scene? And so I'd literally come up and I would see the guy, and I would see him there, and I'd go, and like I would watch them, and I would see a guy on screen, like pick a guy up and pile drive him and slam him to the floor. And like I would have to create the voice action for that, watching two other guys in a whole other country do it, and I got to create the voice that you would ultimately hear from it, which is
right.
A lot of times what you see in this is certainly when I'm getting my ass kicked. And there's a different way to deliver taking damage and receiving damage.
Huh. Interesting. What's like that's kind of an interesting topic to get into. So when you're doing things like that, taking damage and giving damage, what are some of the things that you put into that to create the different, variations of tone and sound and stuff?
Well, that's funny because I would actually have to draw upon if I've ever been in a fight. I'm not much of a fighter. Gage Maverik is a lover, not a fighter. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, just know that I'm not a fighter. But if I've ever been in a fight, I would have to remember what that's like. Also, I've done some stunt work on set, and so I know what it's like so when you're getting punched, it sounds differently when you're like gasping in a breath of air as opposed to kind of holding in a breath of air, like when you're punching someone else and you're or and then incorporate the smack talking that my character does. Like, oh, you like that, little guy? Come on, not bad, little guy. What, is that all you got? Kind of stuff like that. And you have to add air for that. And then they also take your breath, so they just want like your regular breathing. Like, so what does breathing sound like? How does Joe Baker breathe? And then how does Joe Baker breathe when he's taking 10 steps? How does he breathe when he's running? How does he breathe when he's punching a crocodile? Or an alligator? How does he breathe when he's getting punched? All of those things are taken into consideration.
It sounds like a lot goes into it.
Yeah.
So detailed, so detailed. I was very, very overly impressed with the level of detail that they go through to make these games work. And now seeing it actually come to life and seeing some of the playbacks and seeing some of the playthroughs and the work on out there on YouTube and on the internet, I can see why, because it's very, very important. And the gaming community that's playing these games, they want to feel that moment. They want to live in that moment. They want to, take that breath. They want to feel that punch. They want to deliver that blow. And I want to be able to give that to them in the proper way.
Right. So I got a question from Epsilon Church RVB. When you got the part and you started and you finally found out that it was Resident Evil, were you familiar with Resident Evil at that point?
I had heard of it only from the movie franchise and had not played the games. As I said the other night, I'll say it again here, I am not a gamer. I don't play them, never have. I can't even really recall. The last time I played was like probably some version of Madden, and I don't even know what version they're on now. It was probably been like one of the first versions of Madden, and I'm showing my ignorance now, like in 2000 maybe, and it just started because the gaming controls have too many buttons, and my ADD can't handle all those buttons, and so I just gave up on trying to learn how to game. And I think in television and Nintendo that had a couple extra buttons on it, those were kind of my last memories of being able to play any games regularly, because I come from the old school. Like I was a Dig Dug guy, Donkey Kong guy, Pac-Man guy. You know what I mean? And then when you started getting really, and then when Centipede, Laser Blast, these are some of the really cool games. I love the ball for Centipede. That was always a cool little,
the trackball.
the trackball. Okay, so I'm really showing my ignorance here, but that's kind of where I come from. And like these controllers just started getting, have all these different buttons, and you have like 4 buttons just on the front 2 levels, and then like 29 of them on the hand.
How am I supposed to keep up with all this?
Yeah, I'm out of there. You guys know how to do it. I don't. And you guys have a lot of fun with it. So mad props to you guys. But I wasn't familiar with Resident Evil as in terms of the game itself. I had heard of it, and I was impressed that I was doing something for it, because I'm not such a dummy that I don't understand the hierarchy of stuff and the significance of things in the marketplace. I am aware of those things. I just don't get into the technical specifications of actually playing the games and the hands-on of doing it. But I understood Resident Evil to be, I think, in the top 5 or 10 games out there, right, in the whole marketplace.
Yeah, it's definitely a very long and storied franchise with a huge fan base.
Yeah, I mean, where you probably know more than I. Where is it ranked with like the Miami Vices and the Grand Theft Autos and Worlds of Warcraft or whatever? Where do those stack up in Resident Evil? Where does it compare to?
It really depends, because the gaming has so many subgenres. Like GTA would be open world exploring. WoW is like a multiplayer online. So there's different ranges. If it were probably top, at least in history-wise as far as gaming and significance, because it developed its own genre. The survival horror genre was there, but it wasn't established. It was Resident Evil that came in and said, hey, this is what this kind of game is. You're in a horror situation. You have to survive with limited resources, and you're going up against things that can kill you. So,
right.
And that element is probably the first. Out of maybe everything, it's probably the top 10.
Yeah, okay. I would agree. Definitely up there.
And now that
I know there's probably some numbers that we could actually Google and nail down. That doesn't really make that much of a difference to me. But I understood I was involved with something significant, and but I didn't know how significant my character was. And then also learning that it was downloadable content instead of part of the main game. I also didn't fully understand. I'm not sure I fully comprehend the difference between that and like the game itself.
Well, companies have this thing now where they focus on a core game. And this is what they've been making for over 2 years, and this is what they give you. But in order to capitalize on the stuff that they have as far as like the engine they're using, some ideas they had, more story elements to give the players, is they'll make these downloadable DLCs, right? These extra content that you can buy later, install. It doesn't come as the disc. It comes as a digital that you can download and play, and it continues on somebody's story. In this case, Zoe's introduces the new character of Joe. Or brings back other, series favorites like Chris Redfield and the Naughty Hero one. It's very common nowadays, which is a good and bad thing in the industry, because it's nice to get that content, but sometimes companies take advantage of that, and they'll make stuff that's almost like the whole loot box situation, where they're charging you to get something that should have already been there to begin with.
Yeah.
Now, if I go down to Best Buy, I buy the Resident Evil disc. It's from that disc that I have to download this content.
Yeah, you have to actually own the core game in order to get the DLC.
So I can't just go online somewhere and get the DLC by itself?
You can get the game by itself. It doesn't actually have to be a disc because everything's digital now too. There's ways to get things that are digital, but you have to actually buy Resident Evil 7 before you can get the DLC.
I see. That's how they get you.
That's how they get you. But they did actually just drop the game with all the DLC, edition. Not including Not a Hero, all on the disc called Resident Evil 7 Gold Edition for $50. So for the whole game and all the expansions for $50, it's really not a bad deal. If you
That's
know you
have deal.
Considering the game itself when it came out back in last January was $60. Now you can get that plus all this extra, $45, almost $50 worth of content that's come out over the last year. That alone pays for itself. So.
Well, I think so. Given ours I think if ours is only $14.99, so if you get that with the other, that sounds like a fantastic deal.
Yeah, exactly. It's all inclusive. So now that you know about the games because you've been in one and you've seen some of the gameplay, you've seen the franchise and how the fan base is, Dark Noob wanted to know, how does it feel to be part of that Resident Evil franchise?
Oh, my gosh. Just on that question, I got warm fuzzies just down my spine. I got to tell you, it's really, really exciting. I was talking with a friend of mine before coming on with you, and he was actually laying it down to me, the significance of what I've done, because I still don't fully know, because I'm not completely come to terms with everything, because it's all kind of happening so quickly after it coming out on December the 11th, and it's really really exciting, and it feels really good to be a part of something that's so well received, and so it seems like it's drawing a lot of interest from the community, and just for fun, because I'm a research guy. Once I kind of get the knowledge and kind of grasp what I'm doing, I'll go and research stuff, and just for fun, like I was looking at there are playbacks on YouTube, and there are different people have cut like shorter segments, or they've done the whole game or whatever. And I'll just browse through some of the comments, and to see some of the comments, I'm really overjoyed to see. I haven't seen a whole lot of negative comments about the character. It seems all positive from what.
Joe's been very well received, and there's a lot of characters that come through the games. There's been so many games now; it's ridiculous. It's 20 years of a franchise with so many games in it that these characters are hated. There's a few that are just absolutely hated. There's a few that were one and done. They were people loved them as a character, but they didn't last the game. They didn't make it to the next one. And who knows if Joe's going to come back. I mean, we hope that we see these characters again, the progression of their story. But to come in as a DLC, not even the core of the game, but DLC, and to get such a great fan reaction for such an interesting character has been just phenomenal to see. Yeah,
man. And to hear you guys say stuff like that, it really it impresses me all the more, because I'm just a regular guy that just, I'm a big sports guy. Like, I go to sporting events, and I'm doing my thing, and I'm hustling, grinding every single day, going to auditions and doing gigs and stuff like that. So I just kind of bury my head in and go to work. To hear you guys talk about the popularity and the significance of it and how it's received, it really kind of brings it into the fold of really what's happening with it, and it's exciting to hear.
Yeah. So when I was first going through it, I just remember thinking, like, it looked interesting. The DLC looked interesting, but the one thing that stood out to me was Joe. I was like, I like this Joe guy, and that's before I knew you and everything. Before Ollie reached out to you, but I was like, I like this guy. But that does lead us to the question of kind of how did the character of Joe come together? Like, where did that all come from? Despite what Capcom told you they were looking for, how did you kind of make Joe? Because you said you kind of pre-planned everything.
Yes, yeah. Okay, great. This is a bit of a longer story too, and I'll just have to go back in time and tell it. I teased it on the playthrough the other night, and now I'll tell you the story. So, it's actually a culmination of my brother's voice, who has a speech impediment. It's coming from Texas, going to Louisiana a lot. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. Okay, I'm not from there, but a lot.
Houston's not far away, so
it's not far away, and it's not far to get to it. So I've been there many, many, many times, and we used to go down there almost annually with the fraternity that I was in. I'm a Phi Delta Theta from Sam Houston State University, and we used to go. I was in a flag football on our flag football team called Air Force. And our team, Air Force, had gotten to the national championship, and the national championships occur in New Orleans around New Year's Eve. So this particular trip, we would go down there, and of course, a bunch of our fraternity guys were on the team. It wasn't all Phi Delta Theta members, but Air Force was, a bunch of guys from Baytown Lee and Baytown Sterling and Baytown, Texas. And they were a bunch of athletes that were, playing flag football, and they were really, really serious about it. And a lot of us were athletes too. So some of them pledged our fraternity, and we all joined forces with this team, and we got to the national tournament. Now here we are in New Orleans. And so naturally, our fraternity brothers were like, "What? You guys are going to New Orleans for New Year's Eve for a flag football tournament? We're in. We don't care if you're playing football. We're going because it's New Orleans and it's New Year's Eve, right?" And so like suddenly 30 or 40 of them would come, and it would be this huge thing. So one day we're having a couple of, cocktails on Bourbon Street, the very famous Hurricanes, probably at Pat O'Brien's or one of the places, or Cherry Bombs or whatever. We're probably 3 or 4 in. And one of them got the idea, hey, let's all go get some tattoos.
As you do.
That's a great idea.
Of
That's
course.
what you do, right? When you're drunk with your boys and ink is around, let's do something permanent. That's a great idea. So we did, and so we all decided, let's go down this tattoo parlor. And of course, there's one on every block, and if you've ever been in Bourbon Street, there's one on every block, and even in Toulouse and a couple of the other streets that are, in proximity, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
So we picked a random one, and of course, the time that we were there, it was Florida Gators versus Florida State in the Sugar Bowl. And again, I'm a big sports guy, so I'm also paying attention to what's going on with that. And like half the street was like walking down the street, like doing Gator chomps, and the other half was doing like, oh, Florida State. Like, we're seeing that the whole week. So like that was very much on the forefront of the brain, right? So we go into this tattoo parlor, again, random tattoo parlor, and they'll have a guy that's like running the tattoo parlor that kind of, you come in and you sign up with the guy, and then you go in and you're waiting for your tattoo artist to do your thing and like to draw your art on the stencil of it on your leg, and then
Right.
whatever. And during all of that time, like other of your friends are there, they're supporting you, they're either talking you out of it or talking you into more, or trying to encourage you to get some dumbass tattoo you probably wouldn't have gotten anyway. And the whole time, the guy that signed us in comes over and he starts yakking with us. And he is a native New Orleans guy, right? And he just has this voice, and I just love the accent. And like, I pretty much am mimicking this guy's voice, right? And so like he comes over and he goes, "What the hell you doing over here, you dumb smart ass?" And he kind of talking like this, and he has a big old gator on his chest. Okay, literally. Yeah. And notice I pronounce the word gator. That's how you pronounce it. It's a gator. Okay. And he's got a gator on his chest, and it's like he's got a shirt like halfway unbuttoned. He's got a big, heavy set guy. He almost looks like if you could take like a Cajun version of a mafia guy with like the shirt unbuttoned. Not as much a hairy chest maybe, but I could see this big old gator coming out of his chest, right? And I said to him, Gators, you must be a Florida Gator fan, right? He goes, "That ain't no Florida Gator. That's a swamp gator." And like right there, that voice went into my head. And like to this day, a bunch of my fraternity brothers, Steve Hewlett, Steve Fisk, and some others, will come up to me and they'll say those words, and I will repeat those lines. So this voice had been festering long before Joe Baker came along, and it came from that guy. I don't even know that guy's name. Can't remember the name of the tattoo parlor, but that voice stuck out. And it was another funny thing, like during our endeavor that evening, I went ahead and got my tattoo. And I was drinking a cerveza. So like I had multiple, and my liquid courage was on, and like the more liquid courage I've got, the more banter I'm going to do, the more of an asshole I'm going to become probably. And I said to the guy, I go, "Man, you're so funny with like your banter and your quick wit." I go, "You remind me a lot of my uncle." He goes, "Your uncle ever stick his foot up your ass?"
Okay, point noted.
I was like, not lately, but he probably should have, And like, if you hear that delivery of those lines, you hear that in Joe Baker.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
coming for your ass.
Yeah.
I'm gonna whip your ass just because you're a monster. Don't mean I can't still kick your ass. Right? That's that guy.
Yeah.
So that's where the badass personality came from. That's cool.
That's where the guy, it came from that guy. And if you wouldn't want to tussle with that guy, I mean, he was having fun with me, but probably like if he got liquored up or whatever, and you know how that goes, mano a mano, that guy probably would have kicked the crap out of me, if I would have gotten out of hand or something.
Right.
And that's the guy, and that's Joe Baker. Because Joe Baker, I think, would love you as much as he could throw you out of a window.
What about the physicality of him? The way his boxing, he's got dog tags, so he's got a military background.
Yeah.
I'm still shooting for Marine Corps because I spent time with the Marines. I kind of know how they think. I figured he was probably a Marine at some point in time.
You are correct, sir. That is the correct answer.
Oh, perfect. And just his mannerisms, like I said, the physical, the boxing, all that stuff. How'd that come together?
Well, it just comes from my athletic background and like the things that like I said, I've done some stunt work before, and I've got a lot of theater background too. So I've learned how to do stage combat from sword play to literally fighting on stage and things like that. So it came from that particular perspective, and then just the athletic side of me. Like I play football, I play baseball, I play basketball, and all of which involves some sort of athletic prowess at some level. I actually played college basketball at Sam Houston State University. So, it just kind of comes from that particular background. And I think it's more in voice acting. It really comes through more in the voice delivery than it does as much of the mannerisms, So that's kind of, and I was able to bring that to the table from kind of the story you just heard that kind of gives you foundation for the character and what the character can do and how to bring that character forth through my voice, if my voice could be the instrument of destruction, so to speak.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice.
There's a lot behind it. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And we're getting kind of further away from it, but I am curious. Can you tell us what tattoo you ended up getting?
It's going to be very anticlimactic for this conversation, but it ended up being a yin and a yang about the size of a nickel over my left ankle.
Okay. That makes sense.
Right.
So that's anticlimactic. Yeah, but you tattoo enthusiasts out there listening to this are going to go, that doesn't really count, but it's there. It's there forever.
It's not going anywhere. It's forever.
It isn't. It's a legit tattoo, and it's the one I got there. And I do plan to get another one, and I do have a really nice design for another one that I want to put on my right calf. So I'm excited about putting that together, and I'm probably going to get that done by a friend of mine out here in Los Angeles and Hollywood area.
Get the gator to remind you of Resident Evil 7?
No, maybe not. But we'll see. You never know.
The power glove.
Yeah, if this thing keeps coming, who knows? I might put something together for some sort of nice little remembrance, depending on where this thing leads.
Yep, that'd be pretty cool.
See, at least you got interesting stories. Like, my tattoos are significant to something. Like, I've got a tribal with a longhorn that's me and my brothers, and then the other one I have is the cross with my dog tags around it, and phrase from being a corpsman about taking care of Marines and dying for them. And so there's got to be some kind of story. Yours is the development. Not only is it just it's a yin yang from this crazy trip you had, but it actually led to you creating this character of Joe Baker, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me ask you guys a question. Since you guys are interviewing me, I'll flip it around. Just a question. When you, as Resident Evil guys, when you learned of this new character that you didn't even know existed, first of all, what was your initial response? Secondly, after kind of going through it, and I presume both of you have played the game all the way through?
Yes, I have. Yeah. I think JJ's gotten about halfway through.
Okay. Yeah, so what was your initial thought learning, oh my God, this character never even existed? What was your initial thought there? And then as you further started playing it, what are your thoughts of it and, how it kind of looks as it relates to previous characters?
Well, coming into the trailer, the first trailer we got, we found out it's called End of Zoe. We're like, okay, this is going to be the conclusion of Zoe's storyline. It's going to be following her. She's going to go through all these events. And then Joe walks on screen and says, it's about family and his line that he has. So we're like, okay, who's this guy? We don't know anything about him. Where'd he come from? And there was no details out there. We had to do a lot of digging. And we never found out if they were related. We found out that he was a wilderness guy, a gator hunter, kind of off the grid. But that's it. They just had some kind of connection. So we're like, is he a brother? Is he just a close friend? Is he an old military buddy that, you bond like that as family? And he's just looking out for him. As it got closer to the release and the game actually came out, then we realized that it's not about Zoe. We're actually playing as Joe, who's trying to save Zoe, and it is her uncle. And then you piece it together as you're playing that he's got all these backgrounds and stuff, and then obviously there's a big connection between him and Zoe. And we had talked about it briefly about the boxer effigies you pick up, the stickmen that are dressed up like boxers, and I said that's probably because at some point growing up, Joe was basically Zoe's hero, I would think, outside of her father, but here's a guy that was out there, a champion boxer, a strong guy that has service and all this stuff he's done. So she probably looked up to him. That was one of her heroes. So she made dolls out of him. So you see, there's a big connection there, and it was interesting to watch his story progress of the path he took and the loyalty to Zoe and saving his niece and all that, and just his intense characteristic of just this trash talking. Resilience, just animosity. It was awesome to see.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, yeah, I had no idea who he was either. And he turned out great. But I remember beforehand, first seeing him, I analyzed the picture, and he had the dog tags, the bullet, the peace sign. And I was like, okay, this guy's got military background experience. And then you see that he lives out in the woods. Everybody kind of assumed he was Zoe's uncle. But I was like, that would be so cool if this dude was like some sort of doomsday prepper, a little off in the head, but super loyal and caring about his family. And, they didn't go exactly that route, but he was sort of like an outdoorsman who cared about his family, and he was a boxer. And honestly, the more I learned about him before they actually announced who he was exactly, and the more I was actually more interested in playing this DLC opposed to Not a Hero. Now, I was very excited for Not a Hero to see Chris Redfield return and get to kind of continue his story and figure out why he's working for Umbrella. But for this to be a little more interesting to me than that, that says a lot about this character. I was excited to see. So yeah, I'm happy what they did with the character, and I ended up really enjoying the character. And I thought he was a good add-on to the game.
I was kind of hoping once he got closer, we found out more details about him being survivalist, that we would see more traps being made. And I thought maybe instead of taking on so much of the molded, that he would be taking on the soldiers, the Umbrella operatives that were coming in, the military force. I was almost comparing it to is this going to be like a Rambo situation? Because that would have been badass.
Right, yeah. Well, some of the environments kind of lead you to believe that, that's kind of how he rolls. You don't necessarily have to see it to kind of understand that.
Right. Yeah, he's very secluded and off the grid, like I said.
Oh yeah, it's out there, and it's actually really interesting to see because, as I explained earlier, I didn't know much about it coming in, but the preparation I did for this Gator Hunter for that A&E pilot, these environments are kind of what I pictured in my head even back then. These little, just crappy little, cottage, almost cottage-looking or cabin-looking things in the woods, and you see the moss hanging from the stuff and like the trees everywhere. It's funny, the one line it said, "Oh hell, this place has gone to hell for sure." Whatever. I'm like, gone to hell? It's been to hell. It hasn't looked. When does it look better than this?
It was fine yesterday, but today it's gone to hell.
Yeah, a big wall. Suddenly it's gone to hell. Yeah, when I say that line, the wall. Now I get that because that's from the previous storyline. But when he says the line, "It's all gone to hell now," I'm like, as opposed to what? You live in hell, sir.
Yeah. Apparently, this is his breaking point of what he accepts.
Yeah, Joe, you live in hell. If this has gone to hell, then welcome home, buddy.
Yeah,
he likes it though. It's home. I guess we could turn that question back around onto you. And what do you think of how the character turned out? You didn't have a whole lot going in. You kind of figured it out all on your own, and now you get to finally see sort of what your work has come to. And are you happy with the direction they took? Are you happy with how he acted and your performance and all that? Or was there some things you think, hey, maybe they could have did something different with him, or maybe I could have did something a different way? Do you think any of that, or are you happy with it?
That's a threefold question there. So, am I happy with it? I'm happy with the results of what I'm seeing, where it relates to the voice putting it together with the character. My character actually morphed a little bit. The first character I saw was a different guy who was like bald-headed with glasses.
Oh.
So it started out, so I had to deliver it one way for that. Then later it morphed into this 60-year-old guy with the white hair and the beard. And in my opinion, like, this character looks epic. Like, he looks like the god of Triton or whatever. Like, he's like with his spear, and like Triton of the sea or whatever, the king of Triton or whatever. He kind of has that look, right? Which I look nothing like. If you're seeing my face, I'm
just gonna grow your beard back out.
Yeah.
A little older and
maybe a lot. I think actually, and I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit. I think it'd be interesting to dress up as that. I would love to dress up as that character.
Yeah, you gotta cosplay him. You go to a convention, you gotta be dressed up as Joe.
Yeah, I think that would be epic. I think I would really enjoy that.
Make it happen, Gage.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Actually, Capcom, make that happen.
Yeah, tell that.
Right.
Right. Let's do it.
Promote your game.
Yeah, let's get it going. But to further answer the question on, am I happy with it, and are there other things I could have done, and what they could have done with it? Yeah, I mean, like delivery-wise, I feel like, I alluded to it earlier. If I saw different segments and I knew what they were going for, delivery would have been a little bit different, and I think they would have gotten a little more out of it. Now, this is me being nitpicky on performance. We all do it as actors. I'm sure in your other conversations, other actors have probably said the same thing. Well, I would have done this a little different. I would have, but you guys don't recognize that as audience members and as game. You're more focused on the game. A lot of you guys don't even care about the dialogue. Some of you are. it's fun. Like I watch the playback and I'll hear guys trying to mimic the way I say the line or the way I deliver the line, and that is priceless. I truly am humbled. It's fun to see that. My lines are being thrown all over the internet, and I love that too. I mean, that's because I'm a line guy. Like I recite movie lines, and I'm a big like Fletch and Chevy Chase and like Leslie Nielsen guy from Airplane. Like I do all the lines. And it's fun to do that. Like I can recite like Bill Murray's character from Caddyshack. I can recite every single one of his lines, like, line for line. Okay, Carl Spengler, could you just Carl Cinnamon Bench, Carl Spengler, that guy. So I can do it all that. So it's fun to see. So now I kind of know what it's like to be them and hearing other people do their lines. You know what I mean? So it's kind of cool to see that, and it's fun to watch the playthroughs, and you'll see the guys like try to mimic my lines. And then the other thing that's cool is like, there's this one guy that does it. I can't remember his name offhand, but I was watching one of his playthroughs, and he's like, God, I love this Joe Baker guy. He's awesome. And it's like just hearing those words really kind of just gives me great joy, and seeing, people like, and I'm seeing different stuff online, like Joe Baker for president, and Joe Baker should be in Miami Vice, and Joe Baker should fight this, and there should be a fight between Joe Baker and what's the one that's like really like
Chris
a lot of
Redfield?
Chris
We're
Redfield.
gonna ask
Actually,
that later.
Proxy asked that. Proxy One Music asked who would win in the fight between Joe Baker and Chris Redfield. Now, Chris Redfield, I don't know how much you've seen about him, or now that you're part of the gaming is.
I know who that is.
He's infamous for punching a boulder or two to kill off an enemy in a volcano. So,
but does he have the machine? Does he have the machine gun one punch hand that I have?
No, he doesn't.
No.
That badass power glove.
Power glove. That's right. So the answer is Joe Baker with the power glove wins by a landslide. Redfield falls to the ground, 2 punches. I punch him, he hits the ground. 2 hits.
Yeah, Kendall Gunshop replied to that question Proxy had with, either way, Earth loses.
Either way, Earth loses. Epic battle.
On epic proportions.
Yeah, so it's just so much fun to see people doing that and getting excited about it. Now that's one of the comments. It said, let's get Joe Baker do a cameo in Street Fighter.
Oh wow, he just uppercut everybody.
Stuff like that, and then another one was like, let's get the movie going for the character Joe Baker. Let's get TV show, and it's just fun to see that stuff. But the way the world works in this creative environment, none of those things are out of the question.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's possibilities. So on the voice topic we were talking about that a minute ago, Cleric of the Cringe asked, how fun was it to do the voice, and especially when taunting Jack or the all right, come at me, you moldy motherfucker line.
It's so much fun. Like, every time they called me over for voice sessions, and every time they called me in for scene work, I just get a joy out of it. Any time I have an opportunity to play characters and to do stuff that's just so much fun. This character it came natural for me. It's easy for me to switch back and forth to do the dialogue and the lines. And I think even the other night you asked me to read a page out of Joe's pamphlet in character. Like I if you have that page, I'll do it again for you.
Yeah, we can do a better version of that.
And give you a cleaner version of it, because it's just so much fun. Like I love this voice. I love this character. I'm disappointed that I didn't book that swamp guy on A&E. I really felt like I would have been good for it, but at the same time, if they would have actually put me in that scene in the swamp, I would have been doing the acting job of my life, because I would have been terrified.
Try not to panic.
Around me. Yeah, thinking snakes around me. Yeah, exactly. What do I get myself into? And the pay better be a whole lot.
Yeah, one thing to be killing gators in a void. It's another thing to be looking gators in a swamp. So
really, yeah, real gators. Yeah, exactly. So it's just it's so much fun to do it, and it's so much fun to flip back and forth. I like your voice intro that I recorded earlier. Doing that, on the show. It's so cool to just have fun with that, and this dialogue is so much fun. This dialect, it's actually one of the tougher dialects in the United States to do. Cajun dialect is very difficult. Try it.
Yeah, it's extremely. It's a whole nother language.
It is, yeah. And like I said, it's fun to hear people attempt it when they're doing the playbacks and they're kind of getting in the moment and they're like repeating my lines and they're trying to do it. A lot of people are doing it like in a Texan form. It's one guy already contacted me on Instagram and did a British version of it, which I found interesting.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's fun. People are like reaching out to me and like going, "Hey, I love your," and then they'll give me their own version of it. So again, at a very small level, I'm not trying to overplay this, but at a very small level, like I know what it's like to be a Bill Murray to hear his lines coming back to him, or Chevy Chase or a Leslie Nielsen or whoever, Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell has a line.
Oh yeah, so many great lines.
I imagine walking down the street, they would say to him, we're going streaking or something in the quad,
Right. Is there any particular lines you remember that you really liked, or anything that was improvised that just stuck with you?
I actually improvised a lot that they actually let me run with because you got these the Japanese production company coupled with the American production company, and our director's from New York and not from the South, and so they trusted my instincts as an actor and also being from the South and let me I actually was able to modify a lot of the lines. So a lot of the lines you hear is my modification of the line because it wouldn't have been so articulately descript and pronounced.
Right.
So like some of it might have said, "Die, you motherfucker." And I come up with, "Die, motherfucker!"
The way it should be.
And there's another one at the end that I really enjoy where, God, I don't want to give away end lines because if you don't make it all the way through.
At this point you should have played it.
Everybody's going to want a retrospect on it.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this, they've already finished it, or they're not as worried about the spoilers.
Yeah, it's not a spoiler alert as much, but there's a really nice line at the end where I come in and I say, you just need to know that he loves you so much, especially your daddy, even in his final days. And in that line, it was written out, he loved you very much, especially your daddy, da-da-da-da-da, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to phonetically make it fit the character a lot of times.
It's a lot of work, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, it's fun, but I mean, you have to take that artistic expression and you have to raise that challenge to the production team and a lot of times we were doing rewrites on the day. Because it had me repeating a lot of the same lines, even in one scene. Even in like a 45-second scene, they had me a lot of times repeating lines over and over. Let's take that out. He already said that. He already said that. Let's say that in another way. And then it would give me a chance to come in and say, my two pieces. Because once they saw the initial performance, they trusted me to go, okay, this guy gets it. He understands it.
He knows.
So then when I voice something, they're like, okay, we should listen. And then on the day, they let me, in the voice sessions, they let me kind of like add in a whole bunch of stuff that was sort of Cajun related that no way someone from Japan or no way someone from New York.
Yeah, it's a localization thing.
Yeah, and I brought that sort of authenticity to the role and to the voice. And so you see it come through in the lines. And I think, you tell me, guys, what are some of your favorite lines that you hear, and I'll give them to you.
I think I don't remember exactly the wordage or verbiage behind it, but there's the one that's out of my way, you fat fucker.
Yeah. Out of my way, fat fuck.
Talking, once you find out that it's Jack and seeing that history they had together, you're just a rabid dog now, I got to put you down. Or there's the one, what is the other one? About breaking his nose and clotheslining him in the swamp. So.
Yeah. Remember when we were kids and I busted your nose? You were whipped then and you're going to whip now.
I love this. A lot of the dialogue was just, there's some things that you don't get if you don't do it correctly. Some lines that only come out in a certain way, which is interesting too, because I've done the playback and went through it. I was like, oh, I didn't hear that the first time. That didn't come out. But then again, I didn't play it too well the first time.
Yeah, it's tough. Actually, I went through and I just started playing it the other day. And it definitely is a challenge. And I think it's for the fans that want more of a challenge. While Chris is more guns and, machine guns and shotguns and explosions and all that action side, you got Joe over here who's hand-to-hand combat, down to bare knuckle fighting, and it's a good challenge. So yeah, it's
a good breakup too. It's nice to have something new, and in that first person perspective too, which was disorienting, which made it more challenging. But then if you go back and you actually practice and you get used to the mechanics behind it, and it's a lot of fun to play through.
Yeah, definitely. You got to block and parry and all that.
Block.
Yeah,
make sure you block.
There's a lot of technique involved that I see that you guys have to know how to do, right?
Yeah.
You got to kind of learn it as you go.
So, I guess one of the big questions, and I don't know how much you can answer this as much as other than just passionately, will Joe Baker be back?
I think I'll leave that up to the team because if you've played it all the way through, then you kind of have an answer, or maybe you don't. But I certainly, as an actor, would relish and appreciate coming back and being able to continue the character, to recur it. whatever options exist, I certainly would love that opportunity to do so. But if you play the game all the way through, you kind of know that I'm there still.
Yep, definitely. One of the few survived that whole incident.
Yeah.
So, what about future projects? Do you have anything coming up you want us to be looking for?
Yeah, there's I mentioned that biblical readings. Once that comes out, I'll be able to kind of let you guys know what that was. Just a voice job there. Obviously pilot season's going on, so that's there, and there's always kind of something on the horizon. But in terms of anything specific, I have a sitcom that I wrote that I'm pitching to production production companies and such, on and on. So there's just live stuff too. I do MC work. I'll be doing some MC work at CES, which is a Consumer Electronics Convention in Las Vegas.
Yeah, the big one.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll be doing that. That's in January. And then I'm up for a whole bunch of stuff that my management team is working for me on. One thing that that I think may be coming down the line, I hope, is some sort of gaming convention circulation. For us to go around to the different gaming conventions and either make appearances or do interviews and things like that.
A big thing with the other talent and actors we've talked to, and when it comes to gaming conventions, is a lot of that comes from the fans pushing the conventions to bring in the talent, to bring in the actors. So you got to put it out there to the fans as always. If you guys want Joe back, make sure you say it loud and proud. If you want to see Gage show up at a few conventions and do Joe in person and meet him, then push your conventions to reach out to him and to bring him in.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right about that. And my PR team was telling me that actually. They actually told me that if there's enough interest from the fan base to have either the talent come out, myself as Gage Maverik, come out as Joe, or or recur. So if they play the game all the way through, then they kind of understand what's happening. And if they make a voice and say, we want him to come back, or we want him to appear in this other game, or can we do, instead of End of Zoe, do, Joe Rocks the House or something, and like a new version,
Yeah. Well, Joe would definitely fit well on the Special Forces teams. I mean, you've got a lot of characters that are heroes always come back. Whether it's one game later, 5 games later, you're probably going to see them again. I think it would be an interesting dynamic to have everybody that we know, and now here's like Joe Baker. Everybody's got guns. They're all tactical. Leon's smooth. Yep. Chris is straightforward like Captain America. And you got Joe who's like, I'm just going to punch the hell out of everything. I don't need no guns. Yeah. I'm going with my fist.
Right, exactly. And like I said, I mean, and I'm seeing people say stuff like that out there. So if there's like a hashtag, or if there's a tweet or whoever, and they're saying, I'd love to see Joe Baker in, like I said, Street Fighter, or I'd love to see Joe. These aren't my ideas. These are what I'm seeing out there. But if people come together and say, we want Joe Baker to do this, we want Joe Baker to do that, or we came up with another DLC version, Resident Evil, Joe Baker versus the zombies, or Joe Baker, whatever you want. You know what I mean? So you're right. I think the fan base drives it. And if you guys want Joe Baker to continue on, I would certainly back it, and certainly love to be a part of more where that's concerned. And I would love to, come out if you guys wanted to meet in person and have us come out to the conventions and do things like that. So, I'm all for it. I'm a team player, and I want to be involved with the team and go forth and have some fun with it.
So pushing that and getting it out to the fans, create the hashtags, create the movement. Let's talk about social media. I know you've got a big YouTube channel that you're working on growing, and you do a lot of content for it. We'll put obviously the links for that will be in the description of the video, so you guys can go and follow. What about Twitter, Instagram, and your YouTube, all that stuff?
Okay, yeah. So it's pretty much a steady stream of Gage Maverik, no C in Maverick, and that's the case on Instagram. So I'm at Gage Maverik, so Gage, M as in Mary, A, V as in Victor, ERIK on Instagram and Twitter. And then the YouTube channel is The Gage Maverik, because I am the one and only Maverick. Gage Maverik.
The one and only.
I love it. The one and only on the planet Earth, and that was all purposeful. So please do subscribe. Please do check out some video content. We are in the process of gathering some of the content and putting it on the YouTube channel. So if you go look at it, prior to that being uploaded, then you'll just see a bunch of me being me, and you'll see my theatrical reels, my commercial reels. You'll see my a recent video I put up there that's Merry Christmas, everybody. I made my own parody video of this silly video I found on the internet that was very, family friendly, seasonal type of video, and I made a parody of it. I think it's hilarious. So you'll see that and 96 other videos. I've got 96 videos out there. So there's lots to see. I'm not asking you to look at all of them, but there's lots that you could hopefully enjoy. Please do look at some of the videos. Feel free to comment underneath them. Give me some likes on those, and do subscribe for sure. And share the channel with others, because that's what it's about. It's about creating a viral campaign, and we're certainly trying to do that as well. And the more subscribes, the more subs that we have, and the more views that we have, the more interesting the talent is that's playing the role behind Joe Baker. Even though it's my first one in the gaming community, I would love to play more. So it only helps to have some fans behind me, and supportive, and showing their support, with likes, views, subscriptions, and so on and so forth.
So that leads into our final thing here: is final thoughts to the fans, parting words, any things you'd like to get out there to say thank you, or stuff like that.
I can do that. And JJ sent me this survival log. You want me to read it?
Yeah.
For you guys?
Yeah, if you'd like to, that'd be cool.
Go for it.
We'll give you a clean read of it, and then I'll give you a final thought.
All
right, here we go. Ready? So this is from Joe's survival manual. I think it's like one of the first things you pick up, right? You pick it up like scene number 3 or so.
Yep.
Don't you guys?
Yeah.
So right when you start playing.
All right, here we go. There was no gator I saw today. I was just checking out the lines when I saw I had one, so I pulled it up. Instead, it was some sludge-covered, God knows what, huge teeth and claws. He tried to get at me, so I punched the fucker's teeth in before I could. Never thought I'd see it with my own eyes. Goddamn government doing secret experiments on people and animals. No doubt about it. Explains those helicopters flying about recently.
Bravo. Bravo. When you said punch the fucker's teeth in, that was badass.
Yeah.
I love that part.
It's all Joe right there.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
so much fun. It's so much fun to do. I could just do it all day.
That would be fun. Yeah, just be Joe in your regular life. Maybe for one of your videos on YouTube, just be Joe. Why not?
Yeah.
I may. If I can get a costumer, and if you're listening to this and contact me and you want to costume me, I think that would be fun. I think it'd be fun to put together like maybe a scene or a recreation, something like that, in kind of a real setting. That would be fun to do.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's just a lot of love that fans get for the actors, and why we see them come back, or why they get so popular going to conventions and stuff, is because they end up owning that character. They do a lot of extra content as that character, just constantly putting things out and just building, the momentum behind them and the fan base just for that one character.
Okay, well, that's very, very good. And I can learn a lot from you guys, too. So suggestions like that, I'm totally open to. I'm totally, willing to, give it a try, because I really feel like this is something, certainly for my career, that can kind of jump off. So final thoughts, I'll kind of go into it right now. I mean, guys, if you're listening out there and you like the character and you like the game, be vocal about it on social media. Be vocal in your comments. Be vocal in any way, shape, and form you really can, because and I think I can speak for all the actors in this game, some of which have much more experience than myself or some of the others, but for those of us that haven't gotten that luxury, that would like to continue working in it, your voice helps that come true. Your voice helps us have a chance at a career in the gaming industry and outside of it, because what I'm also learning is the gaming industry is becoming much bigger than Hollywood itself. It's actually driving Hollywood, because they're running out of content and they're doing remakes of movies, which sickens me to no end.
Yeah.
But you're seeing them take games and create TV shows, animated series, and full-on feature films about A, the character, or B, the actual storyline. Lara Croft is a perfect example. The Power Rangers. There's a number of them that they're turning into, full-on TV shows, movies, and animated series. Batman's another. And in fact, obviously that one went from like the comic to the TV show to the feature film, and now it's a game. So you could see how it kind of comes around, full circle. But your voice as the gamer, as the fan, as the person buying the content goes a long way to helping us as voice actors. So the more support you can provide us, in the way of follows, likes, subscriptions, shares, comments, and again, in every way, shape, and form through social media, I would be very grateful for, and it would certainly help the cause. And if you have ideas and even contacts to create those ideas, let's talk about them. Let's collaborate. Let's try and make it work. If you have a vision, and if you have a vision and don't vocalize it, guess what? That vision has no chance to come true. But if you have a vision and vocalize it, it has a much better chance of coming true than you keeping your mouth shut about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's kind of I just kind of came up with a nice little motivational thought there. And that goes for everything. So anytime you want something to come true, take action, make it come to fruition by having a voice and having action behind it and having, and try to employ resources if you can. And if it means because you like a certain character in a certain video game, take it to the powers that be. If you like Joe Baker, take that to Capcom, take that to the production studios that shot it, research that, find out who did that, and contact them and say, we want that guy to come back. We want this actor to play that role because we love this actor. If it's me, say that. You know what I mean? Your voice, guys, as the fans, as the gamer, as the person enjoying this and buying the content, your voice is what will resonate. Just like Ali, just like you said earlier, the fans drive it. And without you and your support, we can't do this. And we're not here without you guys. So I want to thank each and every one of you guys already for any subscriptions you've already given, any views you've given, any likes, any follows on my Instagrams, any tweets, please follow me on Twitter. I definitely need to get those follows up. It's very, very low for where I am right now. I would appreciate the follows on Twitter. But my sincere thanks to you guys for having me on. My sincere thanks to any listener that is just enjoying the character. It makes me feel so wonderful that you guys out there that are playing the games are enjoying the character Jack Baker, that you enjoy the DLC End of Zoe, and that you're enjoying Resident Evil. I see comments that the DLC is better than the game. I'm not here to create any competition between it, but I'm here to say thank you for that support and thank you for vocalizing it. Don't stop there. Continue vocalizing what you guys want and how you want it to come to fruition, and it has a chance to do so. If you don't, it doesn't have a chance.
That's about it. That sounds great. So again, thank you. And if you haven't already, make sure you go follow Gage. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Keep an eye out for more content from him coming down the road. And thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you being on here.
Thank you, Gage.
Thank you, guys.
That will conclude our episode for today. I would like to thank Gage for taking the time to chat with us. He was a lot of fun to talk with and did a great job as Joe Baker. Be sure to follow Gage on social media and check out his YouTube channel for a lot of great videos. I'll have the links down in the description. If you enjoyed this episode of the ROE Podcast and are listening on YouTube, please leave a like. And if you would like more ROE Podcasts, definitely subscribe. If you're listening on iTunes, please leave us a review and subscribe to be notified when another episode is released. The Residents of Evil is a Patreon supported show, so if you'd like to help support the channel and unlock some other really cool perks in return, head over to patreon.com/ROE Network. I would like to give a special thank you to all of our patrons, starting with our sword key holders, Kaylin Fox, Petros Lueno, Peter Pickler, Charlie Robinson, Jeff Marcotte, Sarah Baxter, Whitney Niles, Amy Adams, Vil Kiss, Corey Marcoullier, Michael McLaughlin, and Warrior. On to our armor key holders, Vincent Mayer, JC Wesker, Nathaniel Goring, Dorota Medij, P. Thomas, Yazjen, Lurwin, Bryce Ray Parker, Tyler Seth Parsley, and Maylin. Up next is our shield key holders, Tom Tom, Shane Woolwine, Tiago Pereira dos Santos, Kongmen Yang, and RJ Mitchell. On to our helmet key holders, or our key collectors, Kuhn Cannon, Sebastian Buse, Amy Notsuma, Bailey Ritter, Liam Davis, Umbrella Corporation, Thomas Owen, Steve Jacobson, Leon2394. And this podcast is brought to you by our Master of Unlocking members. This is our highest tier level on Patreon: Kendo Gunshop, Santiago Alcantara, Trent Overton, Proxy One, and Chris Lambert. Thank you all so much for your support. Make sure to follow the Residents of Evil on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram to find out who our upcoming guests will be. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and we hope to see you back at the Residents of Evil.